You'll get over heartache. You'll get over heartache. You'll get over heartache. Carry on, don't fear the fall, 'cause you'll get over. Welcome, St. Lucia, to yet another episode of What's Happening Now with Laura. And it would seem to you that I'm one day in and one day out. It just so happens that we had a holiday last week Tuesday, and so I wasn't on air last week Tuesday. But I'm back. I am back, and it's a bittersweet moment for me because you know I always miss you when I'm not on air. And then when I come back, I'm so effervescent and I'm so excited to be back. But today is very, very sad for me. It's a happy occasion. I'm back on air. It's a happy occasion. It's my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Lanya. And it's also my cousin's birthday, Adrian, 8th of August. But 8th of August is also the day 27 years ago that my grandmother was buried. She lost her hard-fought battle with breast cancer. And to a day like today, I still miss her dearly, though it was 27 years ago. And for the longest while, about 5 years after she passed, I couldn't hear the name Agnes without busting into tears. I just miss her so much, and she meant so much to us. You you often hear the adage that it takes a village. It takes more than just a mommy and a daddy to raise a family, to raise children. And my grandmother was that to my family, my maternal grandmother. She was just a loving, caring, wonderful, wonderful woman, and I miss her dearly. And I'm speaking about it, and I feel teary-eyed because, like I said, I miss her even on a day like today, 27 years later. And even more so because my community, Labrie, we lost yesterday a bright spark in our village. We lost her. She succumbed to her own battle with cancer. And it's just one of those things where you just feel like there are certain people that you're just going to know for the rest of your life. And then poof, they're gone. But I will talk about that a little bit later on. I want to deal with an issue that came up last week. But before I deal with that, I just want to share a few other birthdays that, and I speak to you guys off and on, and when I go out through my daily lives, and those were some of the names that came up. Who's celebrating with my sister and cousin today, and those are Shawn Mendes. I'm sure the younger crowd would know who he is. Roger Federer, yes. The world-class tennis player, Roger Federer, I think he's turning 36 today, or he turned 36 today. Dustin Hoffman, I think he turned 80. I think he turned 80 today. And Megan Good. Those are some of the more well-known movers and shakers of the world who celebrated their birthdays today. But back to the issue last week. There was an issue that came up last week where Catherine, you would all know her, Catherine Cillies, fantastic human rights activist. I mean, this woman is a bulldozer when it comes to people or institutions impinging on the rights of the less fortunate. She's a bulldog when it comes to those kinds of things. And last week, a week before, I think it was last week. I think it all happened within the span of a week. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I stand corrected if it happened within the span of 2 weeks. But she brought to the fore that the program, the special needs assessment program, had ended, and that government wasn't funding it, that they terminated it. The press secretary, rather the chief communications officer in the office of the Prime Minister, Nicole McDonald, came out and refuted that. And she said that the program had not been terminated. As a matter of fact, the program had been extended, or the program will be extended. And so Catherine came out and back and she said, you know, okay, all good and well that the program is being extended, but who are the doctors? Why is it that the doctor who was in the program before was sent home, or her contract was terminated, and the rest is history, as we see? This thing just exploded. And there's something that people who are in marketing and communications will always tell you, and even in our everyday lives, we're always told it's not what is said, but how what is said is being said. And a lot of people got sidetracked with Catherine's demeanor. Now, Catherine is not a woman. She's not a man. Catherine is a beast. She's a beast when it comes to human rights, children's rights, gender affairs. And I don't mean beast in the way that you're thinking, but she is. She is just, Catherine has no filter. When in her mind, the less fortunate amongst us are being relegated even further down the heap. She has no filter. And sometimes, most times, she comes across very aggressively. And at times, the message is lost. And so Catherine was on this talk show, and you know, people were calling me and asking me whether I would not come in defense of Catherine. And I would say to them, Catherine would be the first person to tell you she doesn't need anybody to come to her defense. She can stand for herself. And a lot of people were saying, if that, you know, they were damning me for one, not coming to her defense, and for two, not telling her that she should come with a different approach. Well, listen, I have known Catherine for 4 years. And in the 4 years that I've known Catherine, she's always been this way. You know, my boyfriend says to me, there can never be a fight, there can never be an argument if there is one person. It takes two to fight. It takes two to have an argument. It takes two to perpetuate a situation. If one person is refusing to acknowledge, refusing to entertain, there cannot be a fight or a quarrel. Now, Catherine is not a new kid on the block. She's not a puppy or a kitten coming to the fray for the first time. Catherine knows exactly what she's about. And there will be times when we have to stand in solidarity. But I thought Catherine could handle herself very well. And if we know this is who she is, why is it that we're deliberately not focusing in on the message? You know, a lot of the times they say it's not the message, it is the message and not the messenger. I think in this case, that was a situation like that, where people were focusing on the messenger and not the message. Could she have done it differently? Of course. Could we do things differently? Of course. But this was the approach that she chose. Maybe because she felt that the forum necessitated that. Maybe she felt that with that attitude, with that focus, with that approach, maybe she would get people thinking. I must say, I haven't had a chance to speak with Catherine with regard to that situation, but in my mind, I can already tell how that conversation is going to go, because I know her. I've known her for 4 years. I can't say that I know her the best. I can't say that I can always preempt what she's going to think, how she's going to think, what she's going to say. But the Catherine that was on that talk show was vintage Catherine. And if we choose not to hear her message, that's an indictment on us. Having said that, again, I will repeat, what is said, it's not so much what is said, but how it is said. So Catherine said that the contract was terminated from what I gather from my own investigations, I found out that the contract was not so much terminated as it had expired. However, within the contents of the letter of non-renewal, the language used perhaps could do with a little cleaning up, a little bit more clarity. Now I'm going to pose the question, is it not possible that the contract was not renewed because A, government did not have the resources to continue to fund the project or the program at the cost at which it was being run? Could that not be the case? Is it possible? Is it possible too that for the cost that the program was being run, that the program could be extended using other service providers beside the one that was being used previously? Is that not possible? Is it not possible that there were other avenues that the program wanted to address and that it could not have addressed using the current service provider, and so the government in its wisdom decided to not renew this contract because maybe, just maybe, it had expired its usefulness, or I don't want to say it because it's a person. They had expired the usefulness of that particular service provider, and that they wanted to go another route in order to expand. And it's all good and well to have lofty ideals and wanting to do things, but the resources need to be available. And if the resources are not available to add on to what exists, maybe, just maybe, could it not be possible that they would have now to have creative ways of doing so? Now, I was told, I heard that within the contents of the non-renewal letter said that the reason why the letter was not being renewed is because the government didn't have the resources to do so. See where there could be a someone could misconstrue what it is the letter is saying. So if you're telling me we are not going to renew your contract because we do not have the resources to do so at this moment, and then you turn around and say, no, the program is not being terminated, the program is being enlarged, it's just that the particular service provider, her contract had expired, could you not see what there could be some sort of confusion? Because you're saying, I don't have the funds to continue paying you, but then you're saying that the program is being enlarged. I think sometimes government needs to be a little bit more transparent. It needs to be a little bit clearer in what it is saying, because it is just very possible that that particular service provider was too expensive at this juncture, and for the cost of one service provider, maybe, just maybe, you could have 2 or 3 and still expand the program. Maybe, just maybe, there are more service providers needed in order to fully reach all of the clients of the program, or the potential clients of this program. I'm just saying. And I'm going into this all because people are asking me, as a human rights and a gender rights activist, why I didn't stand up for Catherine. I worked with Catherine on a number of other projects. I've worked with her on another NGO, or, you know, and Catherine would be the first person to tell you, I don't need anybody to stand with me. Speak for your own self. You know, I'm going to speak to the issues of the less fortunate, the more marginalized among us. And so be it. And she could stand for herself. So this is the reason why I did not necessarily pick up the phone and run to a radio station or a talk show and say, oh, you know, lay off her as if she's a child, as if, you know, she's a victim. She's not a victim. She's not a victim. And if Catherine needs support, she knows where she can get it. Now, today, I wanted to talk more or address the special needs assessment program. And the main reason for that is because when I spoke with a lot of people, they didn't even know what the special needs assessment program was all about. They thought that Catherine was a teacher. They thought that she probably had a child within the system. Catherine doesn't have a child within the system. Catherine doesn't have children within the education system in St. Lucia at this present time that I know of. But as with our myopia, we always think that the only reason that somebody could only stand up for an issue is because they're feeling the pinch. That is so ridiculous. It's just like somebody asking me on national television whether the reason I am so vocal about the rape culture and rape in this country is because I was myself raped at one point. Isn't that the most ridiculous thing? That if I had to stand up for, let's say, the LGBT community, all of a sudden I would be gay. Isn't that ridiculous? It's like if Shamak, for instance, were to say, you know, women's rights, it's all of a sudden he's heterosexual or something. One does not lead to the other. And I wish St. Lucians would get to the point where they would see those things and respect activists for what they are and listen to the message and not necessarily the messenger. And a lot of times we'll get the two confused. Now, I know that there are times where the messenger is of utmost importance, because if I can't trust you, the person, why would I want to trust anything you had to say? You know what I mean? I can't trust you. You've proven yourself time and time again to be a fraud, to be fraudulent, to be unscrupulous, but then I will trust the message that you're issuing. That doesn't make sense. But if you have no issues with the messenger, focus in on the message. And the same can be said for how we present ourselves and how we present the messages that we come out with. You know, if people are hearing only noise and not hearing the message, that could present a problem. That could present a problem. So there's, you know, we have to look at it on both sides, and we need to practice tolerance. Now, coming back to the 8th of August and why it's such a bittersweet day for me. As I said earlier, yesterday, the community of Labrie lost a spark, lost a star. I mean, this is a woman who was a gem. She had the most gorgeous voice. I think we have a clip, so as I'm telling you about her, I'm hoping that we can get the clip played. She had the most melodious voice. Her name was Anne Japanel née Joseph, and she hailed from the community of Labrie. Growing up, there are a few people that stand out, and Anne was one of those persons. I mean, she was just full of life. Anne would make a mistake doing something, anything, and it'd be like, oh my God. She would just crack up about herself. She was just one of those persons that just didn't allow anything to affect her outlook on life, or so it seemed. I can't speak for what happens when you're in the privacy of your home or when you're in an intimate moment with yourself, but this is what she seemed like. Her husband, Ace Japanel, growing up, you heard Anne and Ace. The two were inseparable, and you just always rooted for these two. And I remember clearly when Anne had her first daughter, Annis, and I remember speaking to Ace. Ace was like a big brother. Ace and I were in Rotaract together, and I know my parents are going to hear this and going to be like, oh, really? I used Ace so many times as a passport to be able to do things and to go places because, you know, parents were so restricting, you know. They wanted the best for you, so they only allowed you out if there was somebody that they held in high esteem, and that was Ace was one of those persons. So I would say, mommy and daddy, we're going for ice cream with Rotaract. Don't worry, Ace would be there. And it was like, okay. And Anne and Ace, they were just like that. They were just a power couple. You knew, forever I've known them. They were together, and Anne always thought she had the most fantastic husband. Nobody had a better husband than she, and likewise her husband didn't think that there was a sexier, more gorgeous wife than her. And I remember when they had Anis, and I said, wow, so you're gonna try for the boy? He said, me, the way my wife suffered, no way, I'm not having another kid. And they had another beautiful, gorgeous Annalisa, beautiful girl. And I remember the day that Anne was in labor, and I said to him, you know, why are you here? It was a Sunday. I said, why are you here? Why are you in the village? Why are you not at the hospital with your wife? He said, what? If I could go on the sea and not even think about her in so much pain and the trauma, I would. I'm never having another child. I said, but if it's a girl, you have to have a boy. He says, never. The boy is not going to be born. And, you know, that was just the love that he had for his wife and she had for him. And everybody just felt it when they were together. You know, there was just such a beautiful couple. Anne was one of those persons who was a community person. Anne was in so many different things. She was very active in her church. Very active in her church. She was a cantor. As I said, she had this beautiful voice. I used to say to my sisters, even when her mouth is closed, you can hear the notes coming out, belting out of her throat, because she just was one of those persons. She was a cantor in the church. She was a member of the liturgical committee. That means the people who actually put together the service, what songs are going to be sang at Sunday Mass. She was one of those. She also, I'm trying to get my thoughts together. Right. She was a choir mistress at one point. I knew every song. I direct the junior choir at church. And sometimes I would say to her, Anne, I don't know that song. I don't think the children know that song. She would give us a song or something. And she said, no, you all know the song. And this is on WhatsApp. She said, no, you know the song. And she would sing the song on WhatsApp for me and say, and I'm like, oh, yes. And she said, you know the songs, you know, y'all just don't know the names. And that was Anne. Effortless. Everything was effortless, it seemed, for her. At one point, she was the chairperson, as I said, of the liturgical committee. That's the committee that puts together the service. She was a member of the finance committee for years. And forever and a day, one of the things that I've always known Anne as, from the time I knew who Anne Joseph was, now Anne Japanel, was a member or a staff of the Library Credit Union. She was a staff of the Library Credit Union for over 20 years. And that's a feat. I mean, you don't get loyal staff like that. She was a staff member of the Library Credit Union and a number of other groups in the church, particularly the youth group. And I used to say, there are a few women in the youth group who are past youth. They're not youth anymore, even by the UN standards of 35 years. You know, and there was Anne, never giving up on the youth, never giving up. And I remember one time I was putting together the service for the children, and I sent, and she called. She was ill, and I had not even realized that she was ill. She was on her sick bed, and she said, you know, it's Thursday and it's Wednesday, and we need to get the songs and whatnot for Thursday so that the choir can practice. And I sent her, I said, oh, I have it already. I sent it to her. And she said, no, these songs are not lively enough. It's children, you know, lively up the service. And I had not even realized at that point that Anne was sick. And I think it's just so sad. It's just so sad that such a wonderful spark, such a beautiful voice is gone, such a beautiful person is gone, and some of us will never know her, never be touched by her and her magnanimous, she's just one of those persons that she's just wonderful. And I remember last week taking the junior choir to see her. And we said, you know, we're not going to stay very long because she needs her rest. And we're just going to sing a couple of songs. And here was Anne clapping away and encouraging them and even giving requests, you know, and saying, you guys know the song. You guys, I want to know the song that you guys, I want to hear the song that you guys sang last Sunday in church. And she wasn't even there, but she always knew, and she always wanted a video of the kids when they sang, and she always encouraged them. There were a number of times when I said, you know, I'm done, and she's like, no, the children need you, do this, you know, you could do this. And that was who she was. And it's just so touching that she died. It's just sad. It really rocked me that she died the day before, the same day as my grandmother. She died the same day as my grandmother, a day before her own mother was buried some 9 years ago. And I just want to take this time to issue my deepest condolences to the family, the Japanel, the Duplessis, and Joseph family. And Anis and Annalisa, I know you guys are sorrowful right now, and you're going to be missing your mom. She's not going to be there to walk you guys, to see you guys get married, to see you and Alyssa graduate from high school. Anis, to see you graduate from university. She's not going to be there. And I know that she may not be there physically, but she will be there with you in spirit. She'll be walking with you. She'll be there. And I know that the junior choir, the greatest wish was that she would recover, so that they would hear her voice again, and that they could aspire to have her voice, to have her talent. And she's not going to be there. But guys, guess what? She'll be there in spirit. She'll be there with you always. And I know her husband, Ace, is going to miss her dearly. As I said before, she's predeceased by her mom, but her mother-in-law is going to miss her dearly. You know, her father, her brothers and sisters, the entire community of Laborie, we're going to miss her. We're going to miss not hearing that powerful voice in church. She didn't need a mic for you to hear her all the way to the back of the church. She was just that type of a singer. And we will miss her. We will so dearly miss her. We're going to take a break now, but when we come back, I'll get into the substantive matter of the show tonight. Stay tuned.
The heart is stronger than you think, like it can go through anything. And even when you think you can, it finds a way to still push on. No.
Sometimes you wanna run away, ain't got the patience for the pain. And if you don't believe it, look into your heart, the beat goes on.
I'm telling you,
things get better, whatever. If you fall, dust it out, don't let up.
don't you know you can go be your own miracle? You need to know.
If the mind keeps thinking you've had enough, when the heart keeps telling you don't give up, who are we to be questioning, wondering what is what? Don't give up. Do it all, just stand up.
It's like we all have better days. Problems get all up in your face.
Just because you go through it,
You gotta take control. No,
you ain't gotta find no hiding place,
because your heart can beat the head.
don't wanna let the mind get behind you.
It's saying you can't move on.
I'm telling you, things get better, whatever. If you fall, dust it out, don't let up.
Don't you know you can go be your own miracle?
You need to know. If the mind keeps thinking you've had enough, but the heart keeps telling you don't give up. Who are we to be questioning, wondering
Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned. And you have to forgive me if I seem a little teary-eyed. Well, I explained that before the break, and it's just now come crashing in, you know, with my grandma's anniversary and the passing away of just somebody a beautiful soul, a young person, you know. And then the week before that, having lost another wonderful soul, one of my sister's dearest friends passed away from same cancer, and it just seems the scourge just doesn't go away. But bear with me and promise the rest of the show is going to be an educational one. It's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be, I'm prepared to learn a number of things, you know. It is often said that 40 is the new 20. And if you're me, that's an optimistic way of looking at 40. It's often said that life begins at 40. And as a result, more and more women are opting to start families at a later age. So you find a lot more women. I know in the past year, I've had about maybe 5 or 6 friends who started their families or continued their families at the age of 40 or close to 40 or just a little over 40. And people are having, and there's a number of reasons for that, really. Some are saying that, you know, they're now settling their career. They're not chasing the next promotion and the next and the next. They're more financially stable. They think that they're now with the perfect person, or the circumstances is now perfect. Or for others still, they're saying that they waited too long. They waited for the perfect guy, and they waited for the perfect circumstance. And now the reality is, oh, there's no such thing as a perfect life. There's no such thing as a perfect guy or perfect set of circumstances. And now it's like, oh, if I don't do it now, I never will. And so they get it started. But is this really the right time for women to be having children or to be starting a family? With me this evening is an expert. She is a trainer of trainers in parenting. She's trained in interpersonal relations and communications. And among her other trainings is sexual and health, information, stigma and discrimination, peer-to-peer education, and public health. So my guest is well versed to have a discourse on whether starting a family, parenting at 40 is the right thing, and to answer maybe most, if not all, of the questions that you may be posing our way a little later on. Please welcome Miss Alison Isbert. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you very much.
Alison, this is not the first time we're sitting across
No,
from each
it's
other,
not.
except the roles are reversed this time.
Yes, it is.
Yes, earlier
Yes,
this
it
year
is.
in March, you had me as a guest on your own show, or the defunct for now.
The defunct show, Pressure Point,
Yeah,
yes.
Pressure Point. And now you're here to talk with me, to discourse, to have a discussion, really.
Really, yes.
On parenting at 40. I mean, is that the right time? Or have we missed the boat? Or are we courting disaster?
It depends on who you ask in terms of is it too late. One of the things I've noticed, especially with friends, is that 40 really is becoming the new 20 to become a parent. And I swear, Laura, everywhere I turn, somebody in that age group is having their first child. Or they're going on to their second, but really they're having their first child. Case in point, a friend of mine who just had a baby girl. And for a while there, she thought she would not have gotten pregnant. And it's something she really wanted, actively sought it. So when it happened, she was over the moon. And I remember thinking, okay, there goes my last friendship crutch, you know, for, hey, yeah, you know, being there with me. So us girls, at least there's two of us left who have not had a child yet. And she left me, you know.
And the cheese stands alone?
Yeah, I'm like, what is wrong with you people? That was not the plan. there wasn't really a plan.
But you
yeah.
like to think that there was a plan.
Exactly. And I still think that the choice at the end of the day is really dependent on the individual. When we look at our current society and what is being asked of us women, what we as women want for ourselves, we find ourselves more and more putting off motherhood for later. And by the time you really settle down to want that child, your doctor tells you, well, you're going to become a geriatric mother, which
Now
is the
stop.
the medical term for it.
I know.
I don't know why I hate it. I hate
Geriatric,
it.
I mean, you think of 80 and
Thank
90
you.
and not even 60 you think of
No.
geriatric and yeah. And
Exactly.
I read a number of horror stories where this one particular woman said she actually planned to have her child at 40. And everything was great. She had great family support and she had everything until she got to the hospital, which she thought would have been the piece of cake. As long as she had gotten her family and friends on her side, her work people and everything on her side, she thought it would have been easy. She thought it would be good. But when she got to the hospital, well, it was a clinic. And when she got there, they were shouting across the room, geriatric.
It makes you want to get up fighting,
Yes,
you know?
and she was like, what they're talking about? Who are they? And she realized
And
that
across
they're-
the room, you
yeah,
know,
across
must
the
you
room.
say
yeah,
that?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the nurses, that's how it's a small clinic, they're calling and da-da-da-da. So they're preparing for her. And she's just like, and then she realized, oh my gosh,
They're
they're
speaking-
referring to
yeah.
me.
Yep.
So they go through that. And I think it's a demeaning word.
Although I don't think they see it as that. In the medical field, they use all kinds of terms
Yes.
and phrases.
But it's
And,
disheartening.
It is because, you know, it makes you feel bad that really, oh my God, everybody knows that I'm that age, especially if you don't look it. Because, I mean, let's be frank, we do look good at that age.
For me, the thing is, it's not so much I look good at that age. I know I look good at that age and whatever. Ooh, great. But then when I hear the term and I think of cricking bones and I may
That's
look
just
good,
it.
I look good, but then I'm thinking of, oh my God, pretty soon I have to think about blood pressure and this and that and the other, and it just brings it all crashing in like a ton of bricks all of a sudden, all at once, and it seems daunting. It seems a
And
daunting
thinking about
task.
something that you really don't want to be thinking about in that moment.
Exactly, because you
yeah.
want to have as easy a childbirth as possible with as little pressure and as little stress as possible. But let's backtrack a little bit. We know that we're all women, and maybe men may not know that because men can have children at 99 if they so desire.
Exactly.
But we're born with a finite number of eggs. And the older that we get, the older the
more
gets
minutes,
eggs,
yes, yeah.
the older the eggs get, and they may not be as viable. Talk to us a little bit about, I mean, I know you're not in the medical field, but knowing that you have older eggs, and that there are higher possibility of having babies, defective babies, really, Down syndrome comes to mind and that kind of thing. Parenting at 40 now takes a whole different tone.
It really does. As a mother within that age group, there is a lot that you have to think about. I mean, as you begin the process of wanting to get pregnant, and you do get pregnant, especially if you had medical help, you are thinking of the excitement and that yearning for that child that is going to come to fruition. And there is this beautiful bouncing baby, as they say, in your hands. But then comes the things that you did not plan for. So now you're losing sleep. Now you have this child who's screaming left, right, and center for all hours of the night, except in the cases where you get this really good baby who sleeps throughout. You have this constant changing of diapers. Your time is no longer yours. So where you could just pick up and go out with your girls and your guys, whoever your gang was, and go out and have a drink and have fun and just let loose. You can't do that anymore because there is this new life dependent on you. So you lose that freedom. Then, depending on who you are, where you are, especially as an older parent, the supportive structures are not there anymore, or they're greatly reduced. So where you'd have gotten support from family, friends, neighbors, you don't really have that as much. So a lot more burden is on you to take care of that child at 40 and above. Then you also have the fees that come with having a child. Before that child, whatever disposable income you had, it was all about you. So you bought the outfits, you went to the movies, you jumped in your carnival band, you did what have you.
And
with
most
your money.
likely, at that age, at 40, you're thinking, especially if one of the reasons were for financial stability. So you know, at 40, you more settled. Your the
Hopefully,
disposable,
yes.
hopefully your disposable income is higher.
bit more,
Yeah.
yes.
And so you're used to, walking into a store, I like this dress, no occasion, but buy it anyway. Now that's a bit curtailed, but hopefully you could still do that because that was the whole reason. So the whole point is you had a financial plan for that baby. So you plan for the baby and you're still able to do things. But then you, like you said, you're also used to just picking up and going and saying, Huzzy, we're going on a vacation, or, you know, maybe you're not married, maybe you're a single mom and you're just used to like, oh, I need to unwind and before
go to
coming
the spa,
home,
go to-
before coming home, go for a drink with the girls or whatever. And then not being able to do that because you have a child at home that you have to get back to.
Right.
But not only that, if like your friend, is like you said, she's the last one in the gang to now having kids, all of the others now have older kids. And they can now go back out again, and you can't. And you can just see them, and you can just watch them walk out the door.
Yeah, well, too bad for you. Been there, done that. Why didn't you join me then?
Right.
You know, so you get that. And you also get the feeling of being left out too, because if your friends already had their children at that age and now you're having that, their time is for something else. Because I've had my child, they're older, they can take care of themselves. And so they're up and about going to do what it is they want to do. But you don't have that luxury because you have that little bambini.
And
so,
the other thing is, you're not the only one geriatric. Because if you're already being considered geriatric at 40, it means that your own parents, because you know the adage, it takes it takes more than a mommy and daddy to raise a child. It takes a
whole
village.
village.
You know, it takes an extended family, right? Your own parents are getting older.
They do.
You can now take them and say, oh, I'm going to drop you off at grandma. Because grandma has all the aches and pains of an older parent. So they're not really able to pitch in and help as they would if they were younger grandparents and you were a younger mother. So there's that aspect of it as well.
But looking at it medically, again, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I don't have any clinical background in that sense. But I work with the doctors. And to hear them talk about it, becoming a parent at that age really is difficult and something that as females we can't run away from. Nature is working against us in that sense, so your fertility is reduced, your body is aging, so that which I could have done in my 20s and even early 30s, I can't do that.
Right.
So you listen to some of the songs that tell you to move a certain way, and if you try to get up and do that,
Well, what
you're like,
she's saying,
oh.
Lucia, she can't split in the middle. and
Exactly.
you're not so bad in Bam Bam anymore.
So,
you know, so you
yes,
can do all of
so
that.
you can do all of that. And you have a child at that age who is getting older as you are getting older.
Right.
And so being able to play and run and, you know, catch that ball, and especially if it's a boy, you know, play all the boy games that you're supposed to do with your boy and all of that. That is greatly reduced, and sometimes through no fault of yours. Even when you're an active mother, or father, because we do have older fathers. Even when you're an active parent, it doesn't take away from the fact that you still have the aches and pains that you have to worry about. And then physically, there is so much more that you have to do in order to ensure that you are at the best physical level you can be in order to sustain one as close to perfect pregnancy as you can, and then to go on to become a parent that is going to be the best parent that she can be.
A lot of the times, though, we think, oh, we've got it all, and now we're ready. And then we're ready. And, you know, sometimes I think, because I know that for a fact in my circle, You were ready before the 40. It's just that it didn't happen
It
at the
didn't
40.
happen, yeah.
You maybe tried at 35, 36, 37. But as you get older, getting pregnant gets more difficult.
It does.
And then remaining pregnant is even that much more difficult for some people.
Miscarriages are more common and all
more
of that.
common than
Ectopic, yes.
pregnancies and that kind of thing. So you already have the one hurdle of getting pregnant, and you've jumped that hurdle successfully. But remaining pregnant is another thing. And then once you've done that, the viability of the baby is all there and you're getting ready. Then the giving birth part of it, you may not be able to give birth naturally. A
No.
lot of hospitals, especially in the metropolitan countries, don't recommend natural
don't, yes.
childbirth. And so if you have a fear of surgeries and cuts like I do, then you have a problem. You have a real issue on your hand, because chances are you are going to have that C-cut to deliver your baby.
Yes.
So there's all of that one has to consider. And it begs the question, is really starting a family at 40 the best option?
Well, there are some questions that we need to ask ourselves when it comes to pregnancy at that age. You know, is it worth it to have postponed it? Was it worth it? And what are your reasons, or what were your reasons for postponing? So if you are 40 and you're thinking about getting pregnant, or you now have had that baby at 40, why did you have that baby so late? So was it because you're studying, because of work, travel, recessions, financial concerns, even a changing global market and your place in it, you know? And when you think of all your reasons, at the end of the day, was it worth it? To start now, to go ahead and have that baby, or maybe just say, you know what, I'm better off as I am now without that child, and maybe help somebody else. But for me, for so many reasons, it's not the right time. There are advantages, there are disadvantages. But you need to know what they are. Some of us really are getting pregnant at that age unexpectedly. You may have given up, figure, well, I'm at that age now,
Here's
and your
the
doctor
thing.
said, and so you went about doing your thing,
Here's the
and
thing.
boom.
We would like to think at 40,
We would get over that.
we would
or
know
not.
that we're not exactly out of the woods and exhibit a little bit more responsible behavior when it comes to doing the things that are required to make a baby. So at 40, when I didn't expect to be pregnant at 40, I don't buy that. If you were 50 and you got pregnant at 50 and you said, I didn't expect to be pregnant at 50, I'd be like, oh yeah, I buy that. Because chances are of you getting pregnant at 50 is like, whoa.
It's a lot harder than at 40.
You know, than at 40. But at 40, you still, especially if you're more athletic or you're healthy, you've been taking care of yourself. There's that possibility. And if you haven't had, you haven't been beleaguered with medical issues with your reproductive system, I see no reason why it should be a surprise. I think every mother who has a child at 40 should have expected that. And of course, one could argue that there are always exceptions to the rule. You're married if you're Catholic, like staunch Catholic, for instance. I can speak for Catholics because I am one, and I know that you're not supposed to interrupt, you know, reproduction or whatever. So you think you're out of the woods at 40 and you're thinking, okay, I'm not gonna, and then something happens, maybe an anniversary, or you're feeling particularly vulnerable. I don't know.
And not only
But
that,
for the
you
most
also
part-
have the medical side of it that would make you think, well, my chances for getting pregnant is almost nil. You have fibroids, you have
Right,
cysts,
there's that.
polycystic ovary syndrome. Diabetes can make it more difficult for you, even at that age, to get pregnant, and some of the other medical issues. So if you have any of that or some of that, you're diabetic, you have fibroids, or you have polycystic ovary syndrome, that makes it difficult for you to get pregnant. And if you've been trying for years,
Yes,
whether it was with the
yes.
same partner
Or
or
with
partners
love,
over time, and it never happened, then
You
you,
let
go
it
along
your
with,
gut down.
it ain't gonna happen to me. So
Yeah,
you go
yeah,
ahead.
I run out of that,
And
then
there is
all
the
of a sudden,
surprise.
and
Yeah.
you know what? That makes sense, because at that point, when you've given up trying, that's when you're more relaxed. You're
more
no
stress.
more stress, and a lot of the times, stress is a huge factor in whether you get pregnant when you're trying.
For a fact.
You know, but when you're not trying anymore, there's none of that stressful factor. There's none of that impacting you. Think, I'm ovulating now, so we have to do it now. And then it takes away the joy of
does.
getting pregnant
It does.
and the enjoyment of getting pregnant. So there's that. What are some of, in your experience, some of the stigmas attached to having a baby or raising a family at 40?
If a lot of females out there are like me, you are raised to believe that part of your function, part of your duty is to give life, to bring forth life.
Right.
And you continue to grow with that in your head as a refrain, you know, that part of your function or duty or purpose as a female is to continue that life. Somebody who you're leaving behind as your mother brought you into the world and so forth. And you get to 35, you don't have that first child. You get to 38 and you still don't have that first child. Now you're 40, the big 4-0. And the people ask you that question, and I've been asked that question. Why do you not have a child?
You know what my answer is? I'm waiting, because when I'm ready, I'm making them by threes.
Okay, I don't know if that would work for them.
No, that's my big thing now. Everybody, because I have a baby niece, my sister, my baby sister. Oh my God, I'm aging. My baby sister has a baby girl. And so we dote on her, and she's so precious. And so we always have her. I always have her. My mother, her grandmother, always is like, that's my child, blah, blah, blah. And so the people in the community would be like, oh, I first out. I say, don't worry, I'm waiting. I'm getting myself all organized. I'm having them by threes. So when I'm ready, I'm going to bring one for you, and one for you, and one for you to give
And
me.
you better not tell me no.
Oh, yeah, no, because they want you more than you want for yourself.
Yes.
So, yeah, but that's my new answer. You know, I'm
Yeah,
having them by
but
threes.
we get that all the time. I do. My friends have had that, even from your own family. My mother, God rest her soul, love her to death and still miss her. Lost her 3 years ago. That was one of her thing. And even on, well, a little bit before she died, she said to me, you know, I don't know what to tell you, because I thought that by the time that I left this earth, you would have been married, you have a man who's going to take care of you, and you have this child for you to love and protect and raise, and I can go off to my everlasting sleep and not be worried about you. I want you to say that broke my heart, mainly because that is something she wanted for me, and one for myself too. You know, and that she would be leaving me and not see that come to fruition for her. So it broke my heart to hear her say that. But before, in the days when she was all young and fresh and sprightly and all of that, it was a constant thing. When are you having? Where is that grandchild?
I didn't
you
have
know,
that.
like, you know,
That's so
no, I did not feel
it's-
bad in terms of
it's
on my
strange.
head, but it was something that was not a one-time thing. You know, it's something that she asked, you
See,
know,
my
well.
experience, Alison, is a little different, because my mom was always like, you're not going to da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's like always waiting for the perfect set of circumstances. You know, so we grew up with the circumstances must be right. You must have the right husband and the right. Well, when I didn't get married, you know, and the perfect circumstances never occurred. And then one day she says to us, if somebody would have told me that my girls, and I'm like, say what now? Say what now? You scared the Jesus out of us, and now when we're 30, in our 30s, it's like, oh, well, I didn't mean for you guys to be so scared, almost, you know, that you didn't have any kids or whatnot. But for a number of people, it's that your parents raised you in a certain way that you protected, you know, and then you want to emulate what they had. And it didn't happen that way. Life doesn't happen that way. And more I'm coming to the realization, life doesn't happen that way. And you've got to grab onto all of those moments. My friends tease me and tell me, Uka SP, because they still have that hope for me. You know, they still have that dream for me. And they talk to me about Ruth in the Bible. You know, and I said, seriously, you know how old Ruth was when she had her first child? Are you
Yeah, so-
seriously expecting that of me? You know, and it's for me, that's the greatest stigma for having a child later on. People think, oh, you wasted your youth, and now when you're supposed to be sitting back and jet
letting them take
setting,
care of you,
yeah,
it's when you
that's
want
when you're
to-
starting
yeah.
having kids, and then you put those kids at a disadvantage because now you can't retire when you want to retire at the normal retirement age because you still have school age kids, or you won't get to see them in the milestones.
And you may not even get to become a grandmother. Because
Exactly.
by the time they have
kids,
you're either gone or way to, yeah.
But
well,
you
most
know,
likely
but
gone.
you know
Yeah.
what? In my preamble, when I was paying the tribute to my friend Anne, I was thinking she's a typical, had her children in her youth. She was still young, let's put it this way. She's not even 50, and she's gone. So what makes you think that just because you had your children in your 20s and in your 30s, that you are going to hit those milestones? I think we have to look at it more of a tolerance thing. What is good for you may not have worked for me. Maybe you were at the maturity level in your 20s and in your 30s to have had children. And maybe for somebody else that is in their 40s, maybe they had their own priorities, maybe their own circumstances growing up. Maybe they were dirt poor. Maybe they were so marginalized that they couldn't imagine bringing kids into that set of circumstance. Maybe their circumstances were so horrid, so horrific that they couldn't bear the thought of bringing kids into that. Maybe now they've elevated, they've reached that level where they feel, okay, now I can contribute something to those children's lives. Why have children but you can't contribute anything meaningful to them?
To them.
So there's that. There's always the good and the bad. You know, in your 20s, you may be immature. Maybe you're leaving those kids for other people. And the world is chock full of children like that.
Oh, yes.
You know, where their parents left them with grandparents who had raised their children already. And now had to raise kids again because their parents weren't, the children's parents weren't mature enough and grown up enough, level-headed enough to raise these kids to be well-rounded individuals. So there's all of that as well.
Well, that is some of the advantages that my friends, some colleagues are talking about in terms of the advantages of becoming a parent at that age. Because when you think about it, it means that at that age you have a more positive outlook. And because you have a more positive outlook, you're more emotionally stable and you're at a social advantage. And speaking of topics back then that were taboo, because you have a lot of older parents, and I'm speaking not just from experience in terms of on a family or extended family side, but just, you know, your older generation on a whole. Certain things that they would not have tolerated then and still don't tolerate. You as a parent of the world, you know, you're more open to that. So even when it comes to the LGBT issues, you have a child who comes and tell you you're gay, your handling of it may be a whole lot better than if you will had that child younger and that kind of a thing, because of the age that you're living in, you know. Also, waiting to have that child until you got to 40 meant that you're more established in your career. That's for those who do have careers, that you have a bit more money, financial security. You also have a committed relationship with a co-parent. So you're not doing it alone. Then you also have that attribute of having a stronger sense of emotional readiness for that child. And it also means that you have a bit more maturity, more patience, because sometimes I speak to myself and I say to myself, do you really have patience? Especially when I deal with my grandnieces. Imagine my niece is a mother. You know,
grandniece,
my
that's
grandniece.
scary.
Thank you. Exactly. And you know, the patience issues, sometimes whatever they do, and you almost, you know, want to fly off the handle, and then, but I figure because of my training, because of age and understanding or whatever, you're not as quick to fly off the handle, and you don't sweat the small stuff, as opposed to my sister, for example, who's their grandmother, and woo, child, tell me. So, because of becoming a parent at that age, then it means that you're better able to handle it. Also, they're more mature and they're happy. Most parents who are older, at least according to my friends, means that they're satisfied. You know, they're okay. They're calmer and they're wiser. Sometimes I wonder about the wise part, but they're calmer and they're wiser. And also a bit more relaxed. You know, at least you catch the relaxing moments when you can, because you have that understanding that as an older parent, you know, some things that are just not going to be your forte physically and all of that, but you catch the relaxed moments when you can.
Now, the time is running away from us, and that's a good thing. We were having a great conversation, but the messages have started coming in, and we're going to open the lines in a little bit, and the number will be on the screen for you. But what somebody asked said they're not sure what geriatric means. Now, geriatric simply means pertaining to old people as it pertains to their health in particular. So in the medical field, there's a term, geriatric pregnancy.
Yes.
And that's when you're a mother at 40. So when you get pregnant at 40, or when
And
you're
above,
birthing at 40 and above, you're considered a geriatric patient, a geriatric pregnancy. So I think it's the most ridiculous thing. I think I could just strangle the person who coined that phrase. So which is why I'm at a loss for words. But geriatric has to do, the word geriatric has to do with old people in particular, or as it pertains to their health. And so that's the phrase that is coined for those of us who are 40 and over and starting a family. So that's just what it means, yeah.
Exactly.
So that's just to answer the person who sent the message, yeah.
Now, speaking for myself, I remember that, you know, I've always wanted to join the motherhood club, okay? And be one of those who could say, yes, I'm mommy, and here's some little thing, call me mommy. You know, there's just something about that sound.
You know, when you hit 35, 40, that really is when you have the nesting. Some people get it a little bit earlier, but for most people, that's when you really feel the nesting urge. And then every time you hear a child call somebody mommy, you're like, oh, that could be me. I want that to be me. You know, especially if you have a really good, and all babies are good, but some babies just don't cry, and they're just so loving, and lots of kisses, scratches too. If you have to listen to my mom, or you have to be around my niece for any minute, pulling up the hair, but it's all in love because they're exploring the world. Yeah, and then you're just like, oh.
And they look at you with this puppy eyes, you know, and they just fall into it.
Exactly, and they're crying, and they just know that you're going to make it all better. And you know, and you're like, oh, I want one of those. But then there are so many other things that you have to think about wanting one of those at any age. And that
is something we don't think about. You think of, you know, that yearning for pregnancy, you know, that you see a mother pushing her pram or her stroller, or she's carrying this baby, and you just get this yearning and even this tiny bit of jealousy and like, oh gosh, if that was me. And you're working towards getting pregnant, and you do. But you're only thinking about the now, you know, getting there. But what happens after that?
But even during the pregnancy, this 9 months,
of going, and waiting, and the older the pregnancy gets, the more
and bigger.
Tired,
and the thing that we haven't touched on, the body doesn't bounce back like it would when you're in your 20s and in your early 30s. Absolutely not. So you have to think about that. If you're, you know, a size 10 or a size 8 and you're 40 and you have a baby, chances are you're not going to be bouncing back to that size 10 or 8. There's that very real possibility.
And if you do, you have to work twice as hard to
get rid of it. And then there's also a slew of medical you could have. I mean, at any age, but the risks increase so much more exponentially when you're an older parent. There is where you have the high blood pressure thing when you're pregnant, what it's called?
Preeclampsia, is that?
Yeah, right. Where you have to deal with preeclampsia, you deal with...
And also gestational diabetes.
Gestational diabetes and all of that. And a lot of times when we are ready to have a baby, we don't think, okay, with my age, I should maybe consult a doctor before I jump into the sack. Exactly. Yeah. Because half of it has to do with knowing what the risks are. and having your doctor on call should in case anything develops. So your doctor is aware and you go for the barrage of tests that, because a lot of people could be hypertensive already and they don't know. They could be predisposed to diabetes and they don't know. And it's only by going through and talking to your doctor and then your doctor sending you for all these tests to ensure that everything is
everything is
okay and that
before.
you can prepare for, you know, so
Prepare your
sometimes,
body
yeah,
accordingly.
yeah, because sometimes you may need to go on a diet, you may need to go on an exercise regime or something before even attempting to be pregnant. And a lot of us don't do that. I
we
don't think
don't.
most people don't do that at any
No,
age.
At any age, it is true.
You're just ready to have a baby and you just jump in the sack and let's go. We're making a baby tonight. And then there's that other thing, and we mentioned that earlier. We're ready to have the baby and we jump in the sack and we're ready to have the baby, and we're also disappointed when the baby doesn't come next week. You know? And then when the baby does come, we never factor in 9 months of this baby growing.
Or even the possibility that there would be or maybe miscarriages.
Yeah.
Because at that age, your chances of miscarrying is increasing.
Exactly.
And so you get pregnant the first time and you're all happy and elated. And however long down the line you lose that child, you're devastated.
Yeah.
So if
And
you
then-
get up
and
that
the stress builds up.
the stress builds up, exactly. Now, if you happen to get pregnant again, it happens a second time. I know somebody who lost 3 consecutive pregnancies, got pregnant naturally, but lost the 3 of them. And when the 4th pregnancy came and carried to term, I don't need to tell you what the euphoria was like, the feeling of finally. But then she's like, okay, I have this perfect child. Beautiful, you know, the Google Gaga eyes and all of that comes with a perfect baby. But oh my God, it's torturous. I really did not know what I would have to go through being a parent at that age.
And a number of times, Alison, we think that because we're older, we're more mature and that it comes naturally.
Nope.
And we think,
Nope.
well, in my 20s, I didn't have it. But at 40, I've learned to, I've been around the block a couple of times. So I know what parenting is like. And then it's like, oh my gosh, even though you've helped other people, but when
not
it's
the
your
same.
own, it's different. Because you're solely responsible. Somebody comes in and helps, but they leave. Just like you left when you came to help. So, and
Can't
then
give it back.
you can't give it back. And then there's the colic at night, and you just,
The teething, the
yeah,
screaming,
you just,
the sleeplessness,
and you
all
think
of
you're
that.
more patient. But I think a lot of older women think, okay, I'm more patient, but they're thinking of when I have a toddler, 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and I can parent them. What about the little baby that just won't get it together? Because they don't, you know?
Yeah, and they don't understand what you're
Yeah,
talking
and
about.
then you have to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the baby is crying still at 7 o'clock, and you haven't slept. We
Yes.
have our first call. Hello?
Hello.
Yes?
Good evening. Interesting
Good evening. Can you
program.
speak up,
Good
please?
evening.
I said good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Interesting program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are a lot of persons who are over 40 and don't have kids. I'm listening to you all, and it's interesting. Some of what you say I can relate to. Some of what you say I can't. Laura, you said something about at 40. No, not Laura. The other lady.
Alison.
You said at 40, most persons are financially stable, and you know you'd be surprised. At 40, a lot of persons aren't financially stable.
Well, we would
right
hope,
now.
we would like to think so, because
now.
one of the reasons why, one of the reasons people give for waiting is
because
because
they
they
want
didn't have
to
any
be.
money in their 20s,
Uh-huh.
and so they didn't want to have a child because how they're going to afford the diapers, and they're hoping that at 40 that they would be more financially stable.
Right.
Yeah, right now, with the different rents that persons have to pay and the different expenses that they have to pay right now, having a baby is an expense, you know.
It is.
It
And
is.
it's not just a matter of just saying I'm going to have a baby. Like I've realized in the States and other metropolitan countries, persons would just decide, okay, I'll choose the guy and whatever, and I'll have the baby. And after that, the guy can go on his business and I'll raise my baby. A lot of that is happening right now. A baby should come planned. And Laura,
Absolutely.
this is what you were talking about, where you said your mom scheduled to death
Yep.
because her priority was you had to be married to have a baby. And you had to have a partner who would care for that baby too. And in speaking about this, we have to try and how would I say it? Stress on that. But what's happening now is ladies who get into their 40s, and so they may get a partner and see the person that they feel that might be a good father figure, and then they just go having the kid with the child with the person, and then he goes his way.
Yeah, but the preparatory work was never
And the
done.
problem stays on the lady's hand.
Communication was never done.
And like you just said, then her mother is much older. Her sisters have their own problems, So I can see it, but right now, really looking at it seriously, it's an expense.
It's an expense at
Something
all,
you
at
cannot get
every
away
age.
from,
Huh?
yes.
I
Yeah,
think it's
no
an
matter.
expense at every age. But I think, well, this is the way I look at it. If you had a child in your 20s, and you're working towards that, you have that child, and you have to do whatever it is necessary to care for that child and to provide for the child. But when you're in your 40s and you're used to your own thing already, and the only reason you're having a child is because you wanted to have a child and realized, oh my gosh, I'm 40 and I better get on with it, and you're not prepared. I think it's worse. I think it's tougher to deal with at 40
Another thing
as
too-
opposed to 20.
Another thing too, Laura, I heard you and the other lady saying when you see the kids that you feel, oh my, it's such a nice thing to see them and whatever. I am 52 and I don't have any kids. And I love children. I love children to death. But it's something that's between me and God, that he didn't see it necessary for me to have kids. I am not going to fall in his face. What he did, he did. And that's how I look at it. I look at it, with God on my side. And I wish a lot of other persons would think like that. You understand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if we say we are a godly nation, well, I have never asked God for a child. Seriously. I always said, everything is in your hands. And if I'm there to have a child, I will. I never had a child. I never, said, God, why? I love children, but I don't say, I wish I had.
You're not devastated that you
Right.
didn't have any.
But mind you, I am always around kids. Always have children around
and
me.
there's a saying, see me and come live with me are two different things.
Right,
So you
that's
can
another
love
thing.
kids. You can love kids. You
Yeah.
come, you have them for a day, you have them for a weekend, you have them for a few hours.
Yeah.
That's all good and well.
Yeah.
But it's a totally different thing when they're your own and you are the sole provider for them. It's a totally different ball game.
And a lot of persons who have children were they prepared to have children?
In our
There's
solution
that-
It's not just
context,
saying
no?
because you are a woman and you have the biological, how making to have a child that you are a mother.
And
There are a lot of
you're
persons
right.
with children and they don't love them, they don't care for them, they don't.
A lot of it is a socialization thing, huh?
Yes,
You
sometimes
socialize
it's a
because you're a
mistake to
woman, you
them.
must have children. And if you don't have children, something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
It's not a nurturing thing. You didn't ever wanted to have kids. You only had kids because it's what's expected of you. And so there's that as well. There's that aspect of that.
Yeah.
And part of the growing up and the raising does not include training, for want of a better word, on how to be a
True.
problem, how to be a parent, so that the loving, the understanding, the how to
Yes.
speak to your child,
It's
how to
true.
care for your child, disciplining,
Yeah.
how to handle issues,
Yeah.
all of that you don't know, and you cannot teach what you yourself don't know. And that is one of the problems we have with parenting, especially in a St. Lucian and Caribbean setting.
Yeah.
You don't have the mother groups. You don't have the
Exactly.
psychologists, whatever, who's in the
Exactly.
community to help you and
Exactly.
whatnot. You don't. So
Yeah.
you're going by the seat of your pants and what you saw your mother did. So
Yeah.
even when you say, I do not want to be my mother, you end up being your
Being your
mother.
mother, exactly,
in
exactly.
raising
But
your own.
strange enough, my mom has never opened her mouth and told me, when are you giving me a child?
Lucky you.
She would be a hypocrite. She would be a hypocrite if she did that. I'll tell you why. She's always said, you have to be married. to have a child. And now she's telling me, when are you going to produce a child?
Right.
You understand what
Well,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
and I'm not married,
And
so
yeah,
I obviously
and
don't
even in the
qualify.
church, it happens. People tell you, people in the church might tell you that, "Wait, when you're going to be married, when you're going to do, take your time."
Yeah, and you
But
know,
there's
it's
a stigma
it's
involved.
what you said. It's like what you said earlier. It's not everybody who's meant to be a mother,
Yes,
but everybody's meant to be
yeah,
a wife.
yeah.
And so you have to be grateful for your
love
small
yourself.
mercies. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself what role you played in you not being married and not being the mother that you wanted to be. Because a lot of us have a lot of style. Let me tell you, we cut in style on everybody because he ain't right. He ain't not the right color. He not the right height. He don't have the right job.
The
he
right
not,
education, the
he
right
don't come
look.
from the right family. He
doesn't
don't have the
have a
right
house.
education.
He don't- yeah.
Exactly.
All of
He
that.
ain't settled. You yourself not settled yet, but he ain't settled. You're looking for all of that, and then the best thing that could have ever happened to you, you've just relegated him to the back burner, and then you're busy scanning the horizon for the perfect man, and the
That
perfect
perfect
man
package.
is on your back burner. But thank you so much for calling and sharing.
Thanks so much.
We appreciate that very, very, very much. We have a
Okay, have a good night.
Yes,
You
good night,
too.
sweetie. Ooh. Somebody said, Laura, I had my baby at 44 years and consider myself to have had a good pregnancy in terms of no illness, no pain, etc. Drove the day before I gave birth. I did plan to have a kid after 40. Now, I know this particular person, and you know you're a special. You're a special. But that's what it is. I mean, there's the good and then there's the bad. Those people who at 40 have a normal childbirth, and then they're 30 have any amount of problems. We have another call online. Thank you for calling. We lost the call. Keep on trying. The number is 4519788. We are willing and ready to take your calls. I'm sorry if we're going on and we stayed a little long with this particular caller, but she had a lot to share.
Yeah. But you see, the thing is, the number of persons, women, who are having children at 40 and above, that number is increasing. It really is. And I swear everywhere I turn, the person who's pregnant now is not a young person. Now in St. Lucia, we kind of still have a low birth rate. But those who are getting pregnant later. And when you listen to our gynecologist, they tell you that a lot of them are coming to the doctor after the fact.
After the
And
fact, absolutely.
all the complications that come with being pregnant at that age, you're kind of scrambling.
We have another call. Thank you for... We're losing the calls.
Yeah, we are.
Something's happening. The calls are dropping. But keep trying. The number is 4519788. But you know
Yes.
something you said? We have a low birth rate. But there's economical implications for that,
For that,
for the
yes.
country. Because now we have an aging population.
Yes, we
and
are.
so everybody is getting to the age of retirement, but we don't have the population to contribute to NIC for that retirement.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
have a top-heavy situation where we have a whole set of people getting ready for retirement for their pensions, but we don't have people contributing into the
to
pension
that.
plan to
Yes.
help pay for that pension. So there's a number of implications, not just for the person, you know,
for
but for
society as a
society
whole.
as a whole. We have another call. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, good
Good
evening.
I love the program. But
Thank
the point is that I had my child very early, and I'm 51, and my last child is having her at 23. But I have a good friend of mine in London. She had her first child at the age of 60. And I couldn't believe it.
60.
60.
60. And that child, she's 9 years old.
It's true. I heard about that case, and that was her first child.
Her first child, and the child is, you say she's overgrown, but she's just 9 years old.
Wow.
I love your program.
Thank you so
There-
much. Thank you for
there were
sharing.
cases of that,
Yeah,
yes.
and that's the thing. I don't know.
I don't know if at that age if I'd
I
still
don't know
want.
if I still want.
Was it planned or, was it
No,
a
that
surprise?
one was no. That
you
one was
know?
planned.
Okay.
I think that case was planned where that person wanted a child. Good night, dear.
Good night,
She
yes.
didn't have a child, and she was 16, so she. I'm not sure though if it was assisted. I would like to think it was assisted.
Well, at that age, yeah, you would need a medical intervention in terms of being followed up, you know, having the constant visits, making sure everything is going as it should, that any complications that may occur, they can get ahead of it and try to minimize any complications, whatever that may happen and so forth. So she was rather lucky in that she was able to give birth safely.
We have another call online. Thank you for calling.
The
You're on
same
the
caller.
air. Sorry, dear.
It's a plan.
A son.
No, it's a plan.
It was planned.
It was. Oh
Yes,
yes,
Laura
yes.
said
It was
so.
planned. Yes. Thank you so much for clarifying
And
that.
the husband is 79 now, and she is almost the same age too.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that
Now,
with us.
as we speak about it, that case is coming to mind. And I do remember there was a lot of flack for that she got a lot of negative comments for that. Like, you know, you are being, what's the word? You know, you're giving the child a disadvantage.
Yes.
Because by the time the child is 15, 20, you're gone.
yeah.
You know, and then what?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so you
yeah.
left me alone. You know, so you were selfish, thinking about yourself and not the child. And you know what gave you the right to feel you could go ahead and have a child.
And you know,
at that
money
age.
is not all. I think a lot of people think, so well, I will be leaving her, or I will be leaving him, or I'll be leaving my child with a nest egg. They will never want or need anything. But what about the guidance that a parent, that only a parent
You,
can
what about
give?
you?
You know, you're not there. Somebody else has to raise your child. Your child now becomes a state, child of the state, a ward of the state. We have our final call online. Thank you for calling.
Oh, I'm the final caller. Wow.
Yes.
Good night, Laura.
Good
and to
night.
your guest.
Good night.
I just want to say one simple thing. Very interesting program before I continue.
Thank you.
There's a principle I live by for somebody who doesn't have children, as you know, and a love of kids. There's only two things in this world that the devil cannot do. The devil cannot give life, and the devil cannot raise anybody back to life. God is the only person who gives life, and he gives life when he feels and when he sees that it is right to bless a female and a male with life. It can be at 15 years, it can be at 25 years, it can be at 30 years, it can be at 90 years, like Abraham and Sarah. When God chooses to bless a couple with a child, he does it in his own timing. Good night. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
night.
so much. And I mean, here we were, I feel berated. Here we were saying, at 60, you're having a child. But, I mean, that's the miracle of life. That's the miracle of life.
And when
Wow.
it comes to a miracle, you just can't take that away. Because at the end of the day, it is really, you know, at 60 to have, not just have been able to get pregnant, but to have a viable pregnancy and to give birth to a healthy baby. I mean, you just can't ask for better.
Right. Now, in summing up, because we're chock out of time. We're just out of
Really?
time.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Final thoughts on parenting at 40, starting a family at 40.
It's an individual thing, and at 40, it's still not late. I remember that's something my OBGYN says to me all the time. You know, if I express a worry or a thought, it's like, oh, no. You know, we're living in an age where medicine is advanced, where we have ways and means of ensuring that you have the safest pregnancy ever to have a healthy baby. And so at the end of the day, if you get pregnant at 40, by choice or by circumstance, then that's okay. What you need to do is to ensure that you are the best place that you can be, not just financially, because as one of the callers says, you're not always financially stable, but as best as you can be, financially, emotionally, physically, be there for that child, because now it's there and there's nothing that you can do. But it's been proven every day that women are having babies later, 40 and above, so why not you? Just be prepared, do the work to ensure that you have the best possible pregnancy to have as healthy a baby as possible.
You know, it's just amazing because as time progresses, the goalpost changes. And I wonder when will we ever fully know the rules, all the rules of the game. Growing up, If you were 25 and you didn't start having children, what the heck is your problem? Then you hit 30, you're waiting until you're too old to have children. And at 35, I remember clearly, 35, or at 35, if you didn't have any kids, forget about having kids after that. And then the goalpost changed again to 40. And then you could still have kids. And I mean, doctors are saying that. And I remember doctors were saying, not advisable to have kids after 35. And now the doctors are telling you, no, it's okay. You can have kids at 40. And I'm asking myself, is it that they're just trying to ensure that they have a practice going, that they have patience? But as you said, it's all your, it's your choice. The circumstances may be right at that particular moment for you to have your children. You may decide to have children in your 40s. As one of my viewers said, she had her child at 44 and she had a perfect pregnancy, no problems. But hey, it's all about you and what you feel is right for you. And sometimes it happens. God intervenes and hey, you have your child at 40. This is where we end for now, and I just want to say one more time to the family of Anne and the wider community of Labrie, Chebe for Pamoli, this death is a part of life, and we will be there for the family in the time of need, as they will be there for each and every one of us when our time comes. But at this point, till next week, adieu.